event is going to be talking about fashion and mental health, and it is a lead up to World Mental Health Day, which is happening on Saturday. So my name is Sarah Hollebon. I am a fashion designer based in Carnaby, London. My brand raises awareness and explores social issues that are happening in the world. I'm currently focusing on mental health, trauma, and sexual violence. I'm also a mental health activist, so in my spare time, I am a public speaker. I hold events where I talk about my mental health experiences, and then also, my collections as well, because they're advocating themselves various issues. So my current collection is on mental health. I'm also a Time to Change champion. So Time to Change are an ongoing mental health campaign based in England. I'm part of the Kingston hub. And what we do is we go out into the public and we campaign to end mental health discrimination and mental health stigma. If you are interested in becoming a champion, we'll be adding information in the chat where you can be more than welcome to sign up. We're always looking for new people. It's a fantastic community that you can be part of. And yeah, it's fantastic. You can develop confidence to start talking about your own mental health experiences. And it's a very safe space to start learning and broadening that kind of area of your life. So this event is also, it's a preview of an event that's going to be launching in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm currently putting together a virtual fashion exhibition of my garments, and it's supported by Time to Change. I will be adding information about that towards the end of the event, and then also I can add it into the emails after. So I just want to start with a general health warning. We'll be talking about serious and sensitive topics today. And as we don't know your mental health background or how you're feeling today, we need you to know that me and Alvina are going to be talking open and as honest as possible about mental health and our mental health experiences. So that means that we need you to be very aware of your own personal vulnerability, and we need you to pay attention to yourself and how you're feeling throughout the event. And if at any point you begin to feel anxious or distressed by what you hear, then please do log out or take a break. You're more than welcome to rejoin at any time. We are going to be adding signposting in the chat now. So if you do feel like you need to talk to somebody, we are going to be adding contacts now. There's the Samaritans, which is 24-hour, which you can call. And then there's also a text service called by Shout. And we're also going to be adding local mental health services within Kingston as well. There's lots of help out there. So please do look after yourselves and reach out if you need help. I did mention at the beginning that this event is going to be recorded, and we're going to be making it available through the Time to Change website and also on YouTube. So if you could, again, just make sure that everyone keeps themselves muted so it doesn't jump to your face while it's recording. Thank you. So welcome, Alvina. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to just give a little introduction about who you are. So Alvina Malvina has been modeling in fashion since 2008. She started off her modeling career in Russia, and then in 2009, she relocated to United Kingdom. She began, she was signed up to an agency called Cosmic Models, but now she is a freelance model. We will be giving her details in the chat if you'd like to contact her afterwards. So today we're going to be talking about an event that me and Alvina worked on back in April 2019. It was at Espacio Gallery, which is a fantastic little art gallery in Brick Lane in London. It's run by artists themselves, which is quite interesting. Most art galleries are run, by a wider organization, but this is all run by artists themselves. So I exhibited 2 garments from my mental health collection there. I exhibited outfits, anxiety and depression. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about this collection for people who don't know about it already. So the collection consists of 8 outfits, and each outfit represents a mental health condition. There are 7 mental health conditions in the collection, and then the 8th outfit reflects recovery. The aim of this collection is to raise awareness and to abolish stigmas within these specific mental health conditions, and also to open up the conversation on what can be a challenging subject. As I said, there are 7 mental health conditions. I would have loved to have covered every single mental health condition, but realistically, I had to hone it down and pick specific ones. So I picked ones that I myself have had personal experiences with, or I know people around me who suffer from these mental health conditions. And then there are a selection as well that I picked because I just didn't know that much about, and I wanted to educate myself further. Before I created the garments, before I was in the design process, I conducted interviews of people with these specific mental health conditions. And I did this because it's very important to have a deep understanding of such an important topic. I feel like interviews are a great form of really learning one-to-one and in-depth about, how people experience on a day-to-day living with mental health. I think they're one of the most factual type of information you can get, really. And after I interviewed these specific people with the mental health conditions, and then also taking my own experiences, I then created wearable art. So at Espacio Gallery, I got Alvina to wear outfits schizophrenia and obsessive compulsive disorder, as the anxiety and depression ones were on display at the time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a little snippet of the event, and then I'm going to talk about the meaning behind the social experiment. So I'm just going to share the screen now. This is my first time hosting an event, so I apologize in advance if anything tech gets a bit messed up. Okay, great. So that video you just saw, the first garment Alvina was modeling raises awareness of obsessive compulsive disorder. And then the red one that she was wearing raises awareness of schizophrenia. So the idea behind the social experiment was I wanted the concept is more broader for mental health in general. It's not honing in on schizophrenia or obsessive compulsive disorder. The garments do that by themselves. And the idea that I wanted to portray is that I wanted to create this feeling of disconnection from reality. And this was something that was quite common that kept popping up in the interviews I conducted across all mental health conditions that I was specializing in for the collection. So I asked Alvina to basically walk around the event and not directly look at anybody in the eye. I asked her also not to socialize or interact with anybody as well. And the idea is that you get this feeling of, sometimes, from my experience anyway, and then also some of the interviews that I conducted, people were saying that with a mental health condition, you can sometimes feel alone in a crowded room. And I wanted to portray this through the experiment. And because I asked her to not talk to anybody when they would pop up, and I also didn't tell anyone that this was going to happen, I just kind of put Alvina out there, and then she started moving around. I wanted to find out how people would react to this happening in the event. As you could see, it was a very crowded place. I know the noise wasn't, I did turn the sound off just because it's like a white noise, but people are talking, people are laughing, people are having fun and drinking. And I wanted to find out how people would react to her walking around. And it was quite interesting because people were quite confused with what was happening. People were asking her questions, which we'll find out in a minute when me and Alvina are discussing. But the fact that people were coming up confused and curious about what was going on, I basically wanted to find out. I wanted to find out what people's reactions would be, because in a way it kind of links with mental health. That, you know, if you're walking around and you're not necessarily, it feels like you're disconnected from reality. And then, you know, there is that confusion with mental health as well. You know, you can sometimes feel confused within yourself when you're feeling disconnected. You know, if you're not maybe talking about it to somebody, you're very much within yourself, inside your head a lot of the time. So it was really just like finding out what people's reactions would be. And it was a very interesting experiment, I think. So let's talk to Alvina. I'm going to ask her a couple of questions about how she felt within the event. So I think you're muted, Alvina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, everyone, for joining the call.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really grateful for your time. And, you know, we haven't really spoken since the event. So it's really exciting to get feedback from you. So I'm wondering, how did you feel while walking around the gallery in the black wool outfit, which represented OCD?
So you used the word disconnected in your description, and I feel like it describes it perfectly, because, like, in a sense, I was in this crowd of people. There was with many people around me, but because there was no communication between us, and I'd sort of tried to look past them because I shouldn't look them directly in the eye, it was very interesting to see how some people wouldn't even notice me, because it is a black outfit, so it kind of blends in. And when they do, they have questions and they want to sort of follow you. They want to take your picture. Some people would try and like take a picture with me. And because I had to be moving, it was a bit tricky, but it was an interesting experience. Also, the outfit itself, it was quite restrictive in a sense. I'm not sure if you were able to see from the video, but my sleeves were touching the floor. So I was very much dependent if I wanted to go, like if I wanted to enter a room or if I wanted to go downstairs, it was a bit tricky. But at the same time, like I had to mentally build this block where, you know, if someone asks me a question, like normally our natural human reaction, like would smile, would respond or cooperate slightly. But it was very hard to build that wall inside my mind, just like try not to engage and interact. But overall, I feel like it was very interesting, and it was like it was very interesting, but at the same time, it was very, very hard not to talk to people. It was very, very hard not to I noticed that communication was a very big key of our living in the society at that time, because normally, like, you know, you could go during the day, like you get on a train and you don't talk to those people, you get on a bus, you don't talk to those people. But if you are in a gallery or in that setting where you expect communication, it was very hard not to respond to them. And it was like almost like I tried to mentally block out like a white noise sort of thing.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like for some people, for me anyway, it's like a juxtaposition in a way, because for me, I took a very long time to open up and to communicate my mental health struggles that I was facing. So it's kind of like the opposite. Like, you know, you wanted to communicate to these people that were coming up to you, and you had to consciously put up a barrier to not talk and to completely disconnect yourself. But then the polar opposite with mental health conditions, it can be hard to make that initial step to start to open up. I think that's really interesting. And it's really interesting that you say that the garment itself was very restrictive. So I'm just going to share the screen again so we can have just a recap of what the garment looked like. So let me just get it up. So as you can see here, the garment is touching the ground. The skin is all covered. And yeah, like I said, it was great that you thought it was restrictive, because that idea of the garment, like the garment is deliberately supposed to feel restrictive when you're walking around. And because this represents obsessive compulsive disorder. And the idea is that somebody with OCD might wear this garment because it would help them from fear of committing sin, fear of contamination. And the idea is that you're fully covered and you're fully restricted. You're fully covered from fear of committing sin or fear of contamination, but also you're fully restricted. And this means that the person might not be able to go through with their compulsion because there's no way that they can move. You know, the buttons are at the back, so the opening is at the back. The garment falls to the floor. And with OCD is that build up of the anxiety in order to then go through with the compulsion. And it's an extremely serious condition. And, you know, this buildup of anxiety can, you know, last like 100 times, it can go up to 100 times a day of just like the surrounding thoughts and anxiety that can manifest. So it's really like communicating that seriousness of it. So it's really great to hear that you did find it restricting. Yes, thank you. So I'm just going to stop sharing this screen now. So then going on to the red suit, which represents schizophrenia. How did you feel in that garment? Was it comfortable? Was it restrictive? Did you feel elegant? What are your thoughts? And what were your thoughts when you were wearing it and going through the space?
So with the red outfit, it was very different in the sense that there wasn't that restriction, and it was very elegant and comfortable, and it was very easy to walk around. And it was completely different mood. Like once you change into that, and even though what I found very interesting is that red, obviously it's a bright red color, it attracts the eye. But I feel like I was noticed a bit less than in the red one, because in red one you can tell it's a very restrictive long sleeves, and like people can tell that I'm either part of this exhibition or I'm part of some sort of performance. Whereas with the red outfit, it looked very elegant. It looked as if maybe I'm just a very fashionable guest of the gallery who wanted to show off her new outfit and wanted to be a little bit extra. So a lot of people wouldn't even they would look at me, but they try not to stare as much as they did with the black one, because they wouldn't know whether or not I'm part of the exhibition, whether or not this is something they should be looking at, or is it just like another person walking around. So that was like, in comparison, that was very interesting to see. But I think a lot, like what helped a lot, like I had makeup, I had like this pearl beads on my face, so that sort of gave it away. But it was just the contrast of the two was very interesting. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I remember as well, actually, I remember you saying that, and also from reflecting on like the videos that I had people taking, you can tell that people are glancing over at you more when you're wearing the OCD outfit. And like you said, it might be because the OCD one looks more like a statement piece. It can be more theatrical, more like an art piece, whereas the red outfit representing schizophrenia is like the details are more subtle. And like you said, you might just be someone there to observe the art. I think it's really interesting on how sheer the differences are between each garment. I feel like, so from my experience growing up with people around me who have had mental health conditions, they have suffered a lot of stigma and shame from their mental health conditions, and also from their physical, from a physical disability. This might be controversial, so I'm just talking from my own experience. Basically, because they're so polar opposites, you know, like one garment that's a bit more extravagant or a bit more like obvious, like, I don't know, it's a bit more extreme. That's what's catching people's eyes. And from my own experience, some people have basically I've had a family member been walking down the street, and they had cerebral palsy. And for people who don't know what cerebral palsy is, it's basically like it's a physical disability, and sometimes they might be like not being able to move properly, like they might miss their step or something like that. And with their cerebral palsy, they also had psychosis, so they had mental health conditions too. And there were a few times where people would come up to them and ask them if they were okay because they were missing their step, or they would think that they might be a danger to the people around them. So there have been times where they've had to be escorted out of a shop because they looked like they were a danger to the people around them, when in fact they were just, you know, then they're not harmful at all, you know. They're just spending their daily just times in a shop, but also their words might slur as well because of the psychosis and because of the cerebral palsy. And because that's a physical thing that is happening, people are more attracted to going over and looking to see if they're okay, or like trying to like shoo them out, you know, like trying to get rid of them. Whereas some mental health conditions, they're more invisible. So then sometimes people from an outsider will just overlook them a little bit more because, you know, we can't see what's going on in their head. So I feel like that could be quite an interesting connection between the two. I think it's a really interesting point that you brought up. Thank you for explaining that, Alvina. And so as part of the performance, I asked you, like we were saying, I asked you to not directly look at anyone in the gallery and ignore people if they came up to you. And I'm just wondering what emotions, specifically what kind of emotions popped up while you were going through, it's going through your mind.
Thank you, Sarah. I feel like that was the hardest part of the performance, not interacting, not communicating, not looking. And through my head, I constantly had doubt, like whether or not like they perceive me as a rude person, whether or not they think maybe I'm just like very stuck up and think highly of myself and try not to interact with them because like I think I'm better than them or something like that. And it's constantly like just doubting myself and thinking, oh my gosh, they're gonna think something is wrong with me. And it was like every time I just had to like be just part of the performance, you have to get rid of those thoughts. But because I wasn't communicating with them, and there was no way for me to get any feedback, and obviously you were like in the other room like answering questions people, it was like I was essentially alone in these situations rather by a crowd which I couldn't talk to. So it was, I'd say, constant doubt was like the main emotion of that time.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think you did amazing in that event. You definitely like stayed in that moment, and you know, you were walking around for quite a while, you know, like when you were walking around in each outfit, it was probably like a good 15-20 minutes, right, each. So I think you did amazing. I'm really grateful that you were the one that helped me with the social experiment. I think you pulled off the garments really well, and it's just fantastic to like have like feedback from you on what was going through your head and how you're feeling, because I feel like sometimes after these kind of events, like, you know, we all just want to like get home, or, you know, like we're all talking within people, or we're getting undressed and taking off our makeup, so it can be very like quickly just ending, really. So it's great to just have like a more in-depth understanding, and how it can also link with mental health. So yeah, thank you so much. So the last question that I'd like to ask you is more of a general mental health question. So I just wanted to know what things have helped improve your mental health during periods of isolation.
Yeah, I feel like especially now I had time, like once with the isolation, because obviously when we are back to normal running our lives, you don't really have time to reflect on your mental health because you're just stuck in this hamster wheel with it. It will be work, with it will be family or something like that, where you don't have time to reflect. But I feel like the isolation helped me to just take some time to reflect and pinpoint the things that need work on. And personally, I'm currently looking to get some counseling to reflect on some of my things that I can't deal with myself. And it was a process of constantly trying to convince myself that getting help or getting counseling is a good decision. And now I'm at the stage where like I'm looking for the right therapist or the right counselor to help me. But overall, like I tried not to guess what helped me get through the whole isolation. What helps me now is I tried not to get stuck and in thoughts that this is permanent or this is going to last for very long, because it's not like, it doesn't scare me. Like it does, like what's so bad being at home, right? But what scares you is being at home for a very long, undetermined period of time. So what I personally did, I planned holidays, even though I know I'm not going to be going to them. But I thought, oh, one day I really want to go like do a road trip down the Balkans. And why not take this time and just plan it? And in that planning, I was able to like get myself out of this space and just start dreaming of like my next steps, my next holidays, like what am I going to do? And when the right time comes, I'll be able to be like, okay, I have a week off and I have this perfect plan. I'll just be able to get off and go. So it's just like planning and looking forward toward the future without like permanence of being stuck at home or being stuck in the country. Like that helped a lot. And also like not just sitting and doing nothing. Like I've redecorated my entire house. I've cooked every meal I could cook. So it was like trying to keep myself busy and not spend too much time reflecting. I feel like that was the main thing for me.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's fantastic that you've shared with us today that you are looking for counselling and therapy. I think it's fantastic that you've got to a stage where you're like, okay, like I need some help, and that's not a bad thing. I feel like there's a lot of stigma around seeking help for therapy and counselling. I'm a big advocate for counselling and therapy. I think it's so important. It's an investment for our own mental well-being, and it's just a fantastic thing that I think everyone should do. And then also with your thing about looking forward, I think that is a great tip that we can all potentially look at. I think it's always great to look forward to something. It's so important to do that. It's very easy, like you were saying, to think about the negative things of what's going on in the current climate, and like you were saying, yeah, it's great to stay at home, but not forever. And I think the thing with the pandemic and the lockdown, it's all that fear of the unknown, fear of the uncertainty. So to plan something in the future where you are certain it's going to happen, and like you said, you don't need to necessarily book anything, you can just start planning, and that's it's a healthy distraction to maybe negative thoughts that you might be feeling in your head, especially around this all uncertainty of what's going on. So it's wonderful that you've shared that. Thank you so much. I'm aware that we have gone over the time, so we are going to carry on the talk. So if people are able to stay, that's fantastic. So I'm wondering if maybe there were any questions that anybody had for either me or Alvina, and we can answer them now. Oh, okay, gosh, that's quite a lot. Okay. So the questions. I'm a bit confused. um, so I'm guessing this is for me then. So my exhibitions, yes, they are going to continue. Thanks for Stephanie. Yeah, so I actually currently have an exhibition on at Never Fade Factory, which is Old Compton Street in Soho. That is going to be ending in a couple of days. However, I currently have a new product there on display, which raises awareness of rape and sexual violence. And then I also have a couple of garments that raise awareness of mental health. So if you're in London, you're more than welcome to go visit it. And then, yeah, so future projects for exhibitions. So I don't currently have any physical ones planned. However, I am working on a virtual fashion exhibition, which is being supported by Time to Change. Thank you, Time to Change. So yeah, so it's going to be virtual for many reasons, really. I think it's great to have a virtual exhibition because, you know, especially everything that's going on at the moment, it's not so easy to go to things physically. But then also it reaches people who might not necessarily be in the area. So, you know, it can reach anyone in the country or even anyone in the world. And this is going to be like a permanent virtual exhibition. I'm going to have every single garment from the mental health collection in there. I will also have illustrations of the garments. I will have in some of the interviews that I conducted where you can see firsthand, yeah, their answers. And that's going to be launching in probably like 2 weeks' time. So I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I'll be sharing the information by email if that is okay by people. But then also it's going to be on my Instagram. It's going to be on my website. So my Instagram is Sarah_Hollebon. And then my website is www.sarahhollebon.co.uk. So all the announcements will be on there. So back to some more questions. Does sewing complement your mental health? Yeah, so sewing is extremely therapeutic for me. I feel like the hand sewing is more therapeutic. I don't know. I think it's something doing with your hands. You know, there's a lot of workshops out there, like art workshops for mental health, and a lot of them are painting or some form of craft, and it always involves doing something with your hands. So and then also you kind of go into like a meditative state. You know, you're focusing on that thing in front of you instead of potentially negative thoughts that are going on in your mind, or just something around you physically as well. I mean, like, of course, there are some parts can be a bit stressful too, but most of the time it's therapeutic. I think it's just because it's work related too. So, is there any other questions?
There's one from me, I'll take that. Has the isolation through the pandemic had the same effect to me in terms of doubt creeping when I was isolated in the social experiment? And I'd say no, because when when the isolation started, mentally I was in a place where I just wanted to rest. And having this opportunity, because initially it was just like for a few weeks and you didn't know how long it's gonna last, like I was a little bit happy because it gave me a chance to sort of just relax and rest and not be like in this constant noise of people and constant noise of traveling and like commuting every day. Like that really helped me to like distress a bit. So I was very much looking forward to that. But at the same time, like as we went through like further and further, like what I felt like not in my personal life, but mainly in like my work life, it was a little harder because you don't get any feedback, you don't really talk to people on a daily basis. So that was a bit difficult, and I'd constantly think, oh, am I doing enough? I'm not doing enough, like that sort of like little voice at the back of your head that just sort of like always like telling you, oh, maybe you should have done more, should have done less, you should have like reached out to people more, maybe you should have like chased that email. It's just that like little voice at the back of your head just gets a little bit louder. But what helped me is like I'd call someone who I haven't spoken for a very long time, but I know that they're also isolating, so it was really helpful to like talk to people who I knew were in exactly the same place as I am, because like we're all locked on a lockdown, we've got nothing else to do. We're all stuck at home. So like I definitely knew that I wasn't interrupting anything, and it gave me a confidence to reach out to people that I wasn't able to reach out because perhaps I thought they would be busy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a great thing. Like for me as well, I was doing something similar. Like I was communicating more with people. I think communicating way more with people than I did before. Because you know we all need that human connection, and we weren't able to leave our house. So to have like you know the technology available to reach people that we might not be reaching normally because potentially they're busy or you know they're abroad. You know it's so important for us to just communicate more. So yeah, I think that's a great great tip. Thank you, Alvina. So do you think you would work on fashion with eating disorders? So I do actually have a outfit that raises awareness of anorexia nervosa. Yeah. So and that was a really interesting garment to research into. I mean, I don't have personal experiences with it, but I have people around me who have had it or who still have it. And also, you know, I think, I don't know, maybe Alvina could like follow up a little bit more as a model, you know, like there is so much pressure to always be looking good and looking like that model size in the industry. And it's quite common for you know, models to then develop like some form of eating disorder, whether it's anorexia or bulimia. So I think it's a really important topic to be discussing. I feel like it's definitely a topic that isn't really discussed that much in the fashion industry or just mental health in general in the fashion industry. Yes, you can access it. So it's on my Instagram account. Maybe you follow me, or you can email me, and I can send it to you after. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Alvina?
So I feel like, especially with anorexia and eating disorders in general, in fashion, it is something that is very, very common, and it is something that almost is given. Like I remember myself, like I was 19 and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I am too old, I am too fat, even though I was normal size, healthy individual, but I was thinking like I would refuse going to castings, thinking that, I am too fat, I'm too big, I'm not going to be able to fit in the clothes. And it's just because there was like, at least now I can see that this industry is changing a bit, but like maybe a few years back, there was so much pressure to fit, like to tick the box, to fit into the box, to have like a standard size and shape. And it was really hard, like not to make the list just because like if you were, I remember like my agent would tell me, oh, you have to lose 1 inch here, 1 inch there, like by next week, things like that. And it was pretty normal.
Really?
Yeah, just to like remain the size. Yeah, I remember I had a concussion and I've come back like after the hospital and I've gained some weight because of this, like you're in bed all day. And I tried to explain to my agent, like that's what happened. But because my English weren't very good at the time as well, like I tried to communicate that. And then like, the miscommunication wasn't working out very well for me. And like the end message was like, you should just lose some weight and then come back and you'll get your shoots back. So that was quite interesting. Like what I can see now, it is a lot more, well, first of all, there's a lot more, it is a lot easier to be a freelance model than it was before, because now you've got the Instagram, you've got you can easily make your own website and just be found and reached out and discovered. Whereas before, like only through an agency you could really make it unless you have someone like hand holding you throughout the way. And it is really hard, like you're more likely to like just obey and try to like fit the standard if you want to get the next job. I remember like that's why one of the reasons why I got freelance, because I didn't want someone dictating me like how I should look, what I should eat, things like that.
Of course, yeah. Wow, that's such an interesting insight. I did not realize that they were monitoring or like a weight and stuff. That's terrible. And yeah, you know what? I think it's so much easier to be a freelance model now because I didn't find you through the agency. I found you through Facebook. So it's great that like you're able to take yourself away from that negative environment and then still thrive in in the modeling industry on your own. And if anything, it's better because you don't have like all of that like negative noise coming from like telling you to lose weight and stuff like that's terrible. But I do like there are a few designers now that are like looking to do like plus size models, but then also like what about just like the regular weight? Like it's like it's just the model size is it feels like it's just getting thinner and thinner, and it's just not healthy at all. Like, you know, we should all celebrate our own weight and our own height, you know, and it shouldn't feel like we have to fit into this box, you know. So there's another question actually for you, Alvina. So do you feel this has had an impact on your eating and thoughts of food?
Definitely. I feel like I'm scarred for life now. Like not more in terms of food, but you're just always conscious of what, like I remember like because this was happening to me as I was growing up. So it was a lot easier to, for example, like I'd never have a sweet drink anymore. Like it's good for me, but it's just one of those things that I've just taken from there because, you know, I've learned that, you know, sugar is not good for you, you're gonna gain some weight. So from like age of 13, I've not had like a sugar in my coffee or in my tea just because that was something I was told. And at the same time, like I feel because there was this constant narrative, oh, you should be slim, you should be young. Like I just don't feel like I was able to enjoy myself just being me. I'd always felt like, you know, I should be slimmer, I should be younger. And since like 16, I was like, okay, I'm too old now. And like, you're not old at 16, you're not old at 30, but you keep on thinking that at the back of your head. And I just feel like it is even now, it's very hard for me to just sort of like stop myself and be like, you know what, just enjoy it. And like, you're in your 20s and just go with the flow. But it's still like at the back of my head, oh, maybe I'm too old for this, maybe I'm too old for that. So I feel like that. And I feel like with the food, I've learned to like relax a bit more, and now I'll just eat whatever. But maybe like 5 years ago, there would be a lot of things I wouldn't eat. Like I would just ignore them, and like I wouldn't suffer or anything like that, but I would just like, they wouldn't be up on the list of things that I would eat because like I know they have a lot of carbs, you're probably gonna gain weight from them. So you're not able, like I wouldn't feel like I am restricting myself. But recently I've learned that there is another eating disorder that is quite common now. It's called orthorexia, and it's not necessarily about not eating, but it's mainly of all constantly thinking and being conscious of your food and trying to, for example, if you get invited out to eat with your friends, you might think twice just because, oh, like, you know, I need to check the menu and see if they have something that's good for me. Maybe it's like something that I can't eat. And because if it's like a pasta restaurant, like a lot of people wouldn't go just because like they would like shut their social life just because they're dependent on that food. And I feel like I've had it for a bit. Like I was stuck in that wheel as well, where like I would not, like I wouldn't go out with my friends for dinner. I'd like rather do something else instead, just because I know I wouldn't be able to eat something, or I would worry how the food was cooked. I would worry like whether or not they put enough oil, not enough oil, and just like not having control over my food. That was like a bit of an obsession. I remember one day my mom, like I was making porridge and my mom put some like butter in it, and it literally like it made me cry. I was like, I can't eat it now. I have to recook it. Like I have to make new. And it just, you know, at that point I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I have to stop. And
yeah, of course. I think when it starts to get in the way of your daily living, it's like, okay, you know, that it becomes a big problem. I haven't heard of that eating disorder. I'll definitely look that up. Thank you for sharing. Learn something new every day. Thank you, Alvina. Yeah, I really do think like the fashion industry needs to change with their like whole approach of modeling, you know, and especially that you think that you're too old. It's like, what? Like, no, like you like, but I do understand why you would think that, because a lot of the models that you find in the magazines are extremely young. They're like children, you know, like they're 16. So it definitely needs to change. And I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, because I think it's extremely important, because a lot of the things haven't changed in the fashion industry. So I feel like the more that we talk about it, and then the more people are aware of it, then, you know, a lot of positive things can change. So thank you so much for opening up about that. It's been really thought-provoking. Okay, so we've gone quite far over, but I think that was a great Q&A. I just want to say thank you so much, Alvina, again for coming on and us discussing openly about mental health and also your mental health experiences too. It's been extremely powerful. I hope everyone else has enjoyed it. Yeah, so again, we've put in contact details for Alvina in the chat, but also I will share them around afterwards too. Also, so if anyone is looking to become a champion for Time to Change, we are going to be adding information in there now. Yep, Stephanie's just done that too on it. That's great. Okay, so this event is also going to be it was recorded. So we're going to be publishing it online. If you want to share it around with people, or if you want to watch it again, that's fantastic. That will be available, and we'll be advertising that on our social media platforms. And just to reiterate, if anything was distressing in this conversation, please don't be afraid to call Samaritans or shout, or any mental health services that we added in. Again, it's here. So yeah, just thank you so much everyone for turning up and enjoying it. I hope you all found it interesting and thought-provoking, and I will be organising more events like this with fashion and mental health, so keep your eyes peeled, and also keep your eyes peeled for the virtual fashion exhibition. Thank you so much everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Alvina. It's been fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have.
Yeah, thank you for making it part of the conversation. I really enjoyed it.
You're very welcome. I think it's been very powerful.